hopefully they get into all of the new features and stuff coming to the game, because it's freaking hype, man. It really is hype. By far the coolest stuff that they've done since they've started this publicly.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition
You're a little
of the
quiet,
Smite
Isaiah.
2 Dev Insight Show. My name's Isaiah,
There we go.
community lead
They
here
turned
at
his mic
Titanfall
up.
Studios. I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to be going over a lot of stuff. We had a lot of feedback come in during our last closed alpha weekend playtest, and the team has been putting in a ton of work. So we're going to be talking about a lot
turning
of
him up
stuff
even
here
more.
today, and here to break
Oh, they're really
break
turning him up.
down a lot of the things that we're going through is Alex, our executive producer here at Titan Forge, and then design director AJ is joining me here as well. How are you all doing today?
Doing great. Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to be able to talk about how we're addressing all the feedback that we got from the community. And I just want to start by thanking the community for giving us the feedback. We've said publicly a lot of times, don't treat us with kid gloves. Yeah. Don't act like, it's a beta, they'll get to it, right? You guys
they
definitely
didn't.
took the kid gloves off this time, and you gave us some real, honest, hard-hitting feedback. And
I think Stu might have added me in the
as a dev
meeting.
team to oh my God, they hate it, for a day or two. But then it was cool. Now we have the information that we need to really, hit the ground running and to address the issues and make the game that we all want to play. So thank you all for the feedback. It's really been great getting the team rallied around addressing it over the past few days.
Absolutely. Well, this is going to be a Dev Insight show. It's going to be a little bit more casual, a little bit more conversational. We're going to be talking at a high level some of the biggest community topics and feedback that we got and how we're addressing them going into closed alpha 1.
Let's do this,
now,
Isaiah.
This is not a full update show. I want to be clear before we get started and get everything going here. So we're going to have a full update show for closed alpha 1 in a couple weeks, where we're going to be going over things like full God item and game mode balance. We're going to have the full Mordred kit reveal on that show in a couple weeks. I know people are really excited about that.
Okay, so no
We're also
Mordred
going to be
kit
going a
reveal
little bit
today.
more in depth on some of the things like ranked and some other gameplay systems, as well as we'll have full patch notes on the website when that show goes live in a couple of weeks. But for today, we've got a lot of good stuff going over. So y'all just want to hop into it? I feel like we've got.
Yes, I'm going to go off script a little bit at the start.
Let's go off script.
I addressed one thing that I don't think we ever talked about from Alpha Weekend 4.
Yeah.
And that's that servers kind of sucked at the start of it.
That is true. Yeah.
So what we learned at the beginning through looking at some data there is that we were using a group of servers that didn't have fast enough hard drives to be able to run the Smite 2 server. And that was causing really degraded performance. So starting around day 2 of the last alpha, you notice the performance got a lot better. That's because we got all of those slow hard drive servers out of the rotation, and we aren't going to be bringing that level of server back into the rotation going forward. So you shouldn't see that issue anymore. We will also, for this next test, we're going to be testing a couple different server regions. So again, we're just trying to make sure that we get the best experience possible, but you may find that you have slightly different ping from match to match, because we're going to be testing a couple different regions to see what works best for everybody.
Interesting.
But with that little
I didn't even know that.
out of the way, we can get to what we actually want
All
to
right,
talk about. Sorry
I'm
about
super
that.
excited. I know the first topic that we're going to cover today has been a big topic even since the initial alpha weekend. Kind of on the forward-facing God selection side of things. Let's talk about how we are transitioning from 3D renders to card art coming back in Alpha Weekend 1.
Card art's back.
Yep,
I'm so excited. Yeah, so
Card art's back.
I think, AJ will talk more about this, but, initially when we were designing Smite 2, one of the things we were thinking was man, these models look so great. Let's try and use the models everywhere, right? And initially when we were designing the UI, we were like, it'd be really cool if we could use the actual 3D models moving everywhere. And so we were kind of building towards that. But what we found is that performance-wise, that was just never going to work out in a way that felt good to players, because it's going to take a long time to load screens. So then we went to these renders, which I think looked nice, but I don't think they gave the Smite feel that everybody wanted, right? So we've been taking this feedback that people want the card art back, and we've been talking about well, how can we stay true to the original card art, but update it in a way that feels modern and Smite 2-y. So I'll let AJ take the helm here. I'm talking too much. So
I mean, the people have spoken. They wanted the cards, so the cards are coming back. We're going to be using the Smite 1 card art for the default cards as inspiration for most of the ported Smite 1 gods. New gods like Hecatine Mordred will have to have all new cards. Those might not be ready for this patch because we're going to have to go out and make those.
they will not be ready for that.
They will not be.
They will not be ready.
But Many of the gods will be ready and they'll be using their Smite 1 card art, but we're going to do some touch-ups. Like some of their default cards are very old and might have some other issues with proportions or sizing, or also we changed models in a couple characters too. They have different clothing, different outfits, different shapes. So trying to make that accurate, we're going to do some touch-ups.
They showed a couple of the
goal is to
updates.
really
I hope they
keep it
show
in
them
the
here.
spirit.
They
We're
showed
not
a couple of us
completely
the
reworking it.
updates, and they were
people
clean.
Love those arts.
Hopefully
for many
they show you
reasons.
guys
So,
too.
yeah, we have a demo here today to show you what Loki is going to look like in Smite 2 card art. So we can go ahead and throw that up on the screen to give an example. So here's the card art you're used to for Loki. It's nice art, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't look like Loki. Like his face is purple and his eyes are kind of like it's almost like he's wearing a mask. You know, it's like it doesn't quite look like our Loki, even though it's a cool card. So then we're going to go ahead and toggle to the updated version that we plan to use as his default in Smite 2 that gets a lot more of Loki's
guys, it
personality
looks like Loki
coming
now.
through his actual facial features looking
Guys,
accurate.
it's actually Loki
Some other
this time.
corrections for lighting
Look at that.
and directional reflections in other places on the card. But this is the level of change we're looking for. So we're not looking to change core poses or theme or style. It's just some touch-ups on the detail level. Like
Same
a lot of them
style,
are face,
same theme, but actually
specific
looks like the
facial
character.
expression and facial features updates. But then some also have armor and weapon updates to match Smite 2 as well. So every god in Smite 2 will have these card arts.
Yeah, and I think, in the early days of Smite 2 development, we said it's going to be Smite, but strictly better. And I think that, maybe we went off the rails a little bit with the renders, but I think if you look at this, it's really hard to say this isn't what we did in Smite, but just strictly better. It's, the level of detail, the polish is very good. Shout out to Stu and his crew and Jordan making this happen.
Yeah, we're going to do a lot of shout-outs today because everybody's been busting their asses
better.
on this patch. So that's why we're here early to tell you about half of it or more because there's so much in this one.
Yeah, and I think in terms of what to expect for this card art rollout, right? Because we are updating all of these and we want them to feel better, they will not all be in CA1. I think what we're currently targeting is about 6 gods that will have their updated card art for our first closed alpha test. And then hopefully CA2, maybe CA3, we'll get the rest of them over. And we'll just kind of roll through it. And you'll see it update over time. But we want to, we're committed to this direction. This is where we're going. It's just going to take us, a little bit of time to get there.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying.
Awesome.
Step
the next
one,
I'm
art
super
update?
excited about
Good.
because I know we had a lot of conversation on social media from content creators, ambassadors. Let's talk about how we're approaching the environment going into closed alpha 1.
And not just the environment, but the entire game's art style as, in a way it even affects the core gameplay and characters and everything. We're making a lot of big changes here, and we're going to show you some before and afters here in just one second. But the main thing, I'm just going to give the high level first. So, we've been really taking the feedback about the Smite 2 art style and what can we do to make it more our own, make it pop, make it feel like Smite. So we're going to have a lot of changes we're about to show. So number one goal,
fairly
adjust core
big
engine settings to remove that default Unreal Engine feel, right? That was one thing we really tried to tackle hard.
Yep.
Next one was try to get to these more crisper, sharper images. Like there's that part of that Unreal Engine feel is a lot of hyper realism focus. You get a lot of camera blur, a lot of distance blur, stuff like that. Does not really fit to Smite's gameplay very well. The next one was to adjust the environment and the character models and lighting for more vibrant colors and some stylized visuals. So those were kind of the two really big goals.
Way better.
We're going to just show some before and
I
after
didn't think
screenshots
that it
'cause I
looked
think those
bad,
really
but it looks
show
much
what we're talking about here. So this is what the center, standing in the center of mid lane, looking at the order base would look like in Alpha 4 update. So take a second,
Absorb it in.
bring it in. I mean,
Let it simmer.
there's nothing immediately offensive about this, I think, but it's we're thinking about what can still be improved. And those things I'm listing here. So now let's
I think the thing that's most striking is just the amount of brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of brown and green earth tones just everywhere. So now let's toggle to the new in progress closed alpha version. Here we go. So you have a completely reworked
Way
floor.
better.
You have a lot more vibrant greens in the grass and the trees and different greens that contrast each other as well as the rocks. You've got sharper visuals.
Much
If you can, production, if you don't mind, kind of toggling back and forth between them every few seconds as we talk. Look in the distance
not even close.
as they toggle back and forth, and you'll see
Not
that a
even
lot of
close.
the distant visuals are a lot more clear. Even with that kind of fog, you got a lot better view of them. If you look at Anubis, even just the back of his head, you can see some of that Unreal Engine blur that's there in the old version, and the colors don't quite work out. And then into the new version, you see that like that green really shines, and the lines in his silhouette really sharp.
Yep.
Like this is just
Huge
what we've been
aesthetic
able to do in a few
improvements.
weeks, and it's made a really big progress. So, you know, we're going to look at a few more before and afters. We're going to show off even more of the map, but I just want to call out shout outs to all the
If they
art team
show
and
the
environment team
arena
that are working
one,
so
the
hard on this.
arena
And I wanna
before and
also,
after
like Alex
is
mentioned
crazy.
with the rollout, I want to
Crazy
clarify
if
that a
they
little
show
bit.
it.
So, you know, we're looking to get these core visuals in the 24/7 patch. So that's sharpness, vibrance, color, definition, style is going to be there. But because we're doing such a large rework, it's going to mean that a couple things are going to be removed or have to be remade. So if you toggle back and forth between the old one again, you'll notice there's a lot more set dressing, as we would call it, like props on the trees and rocks, so those little plants and things like that. Those are all in progress and are going to come back, but they're not in this image right now. We want to just clarify that to know that's like a known issue. It's not that we intend
There's
to
actually
remove
a
all that, but
spoiler
we're
on the
gonna bring it
UI.
back, and we're going to apply the
Can
similar
anybody
principles
catch?
to it.
There's
make sure
actually
it's
several
sharp
UI
and clear
spoilers.
and vibrant, and make sure it's not
Several
noisy
UI
and overloaded
spoilers.
or too monochromatic.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
and
we're going to have a lot to build on after CA1 as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of say it once again, just to make sure, you know, this is all still work in progress, right? So things that maybe don't look 100% finished, you know, like some of the transitions between the grass and the ground, and you know, the exact brightness level and all of that, right? We're still tuning a lot of this stuff across the map, and some parts of the map are more done than others. We think it's going to be in a good state to show the direction that we're going, and that feels good to play on by the time we get to our closed alpha patch. But it's not done yet. We're still in alpha. We're going to keep working on it, and it's going to keep getting better.
All right, so let's rotate through a few more sections of the map to show the before and after. This was the before for looking at the chaos side from the mid lane. And then, you know, a lot of brown again. And then here's the new looking
God,
at the
it's
chaos side.
so
of the mid lane.
much
So
cleaner
things you'll
and
notice is the
crisper.
reworked floor, the stone
So
versus
much
the grass.
cleaner,
You see
dude.
multiple different shades of grass.
And this is
You've
not
got
on the highest
orange,
graphical settings.
like auburn grass.
These
over in
pictures
the
were
jungle
taken on
and the
Ajax's
trees
work machine,
in
which runs on
different
like
color than they were before.
medium settings.
Now let's go. Yeah, you see those trees are kind of a pale brown, especially, or even yellow on the left. You get a lot more of that vibrant orange, and you get a lot more of that in the grass on the floor, and the contrast between order and chaos.
Yeah, I think really, it's not like I got lost on the Conquest map before, but I find myself getting lost a lot less.
Yes.
You know what part of the map you're in a lot more because of these little color hints that tell you what part of map you are.
And now we're going to go into the jungle. We're going to see, I think, even more intensely compelling than what we've seen before. So this is the previous jungle from Alpha 4. And then let's toggle to the new jungle.
There we
Look
go.
at those colors and that style, right? The grass. There's a lot of really cool tech going on in this map that we're going to show off in more detail in the main patch notes show. But yeah, I think just the greens and the grass and the contrast with the rocks and the trees and the sky, everything just pops like so much more. And there's so much more clarity in the both distant and close range. Like, it was really surprising to me when we were looking through those Unreal Engine settings and, you know, going through and doing another pass on them and finding just how much power we had over the visuals of the game through those. So, and then finally, the last one to show is the new and old Chaos Jungle. This is probably the single
This is
biggest
a-
improvement
this
in
is
any
a
part
big
of the
one,
map,
for
because
sure.
the Chaos side
For
really
sure.
wasn't super defined as Chaos. It was using a lot of the same assets. The trees were really just a different color, but now it's got a completely new color palette unique to itself to define the Chaos side.
Yeah, you recognize immediately if you're on order or chaos, just
Yep.
based off of those deep oranges.
So-
it's very autumnal, like
Yeah.
all colors. It looks great.
Right. So there's a lot going on still between the actual engine settings, the camera settings, the environment assets themselves, and the lighting. There's still a lot to be done. We're still working through a lot of parts of this map. You know, Conquest map is not finished for CA1. We have a pretty good target, we think, for getting it in a really good baseline spot across the whole map for this 24/7 update. But then, like I said, a lot of the, you know, we'll further continue to build on that, adding more, you know, vibrant and fantastical assets and objectives across the map. There's going to be gameplay changes to this map that we're not going to go over today.
I think it's gonna
The
look and
objectives on
feel
the map,
much better.
There was geometry
aesthetic
changes, lanes adjusted, things like that. all based on community feedback.
This
that we're
also
gonna go
changes
through,
like
in
how
the future.
crispy abilities look
Last
too,
call
by
out
the way.
before we go to
Because
the
it
next section is
changes
that we're
the
gonna
settings
apply
on all that
similar
stuff.
methodology to Arena. And we're not going to show that today because it's still a little bit more work in progress than Conquest was, but we'll have that ready to demo for the main patch test. And this even affects, the way the characters present in other places, like in the front end and the client and things like that. And it really is making a big difference. So it's great. If we want to go to the in-game real quick, I'll walk around in the parts of the Conquest map that are looking okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We can get a real look at it. So here we are in the gameplay of it.
Conquest!
In real time.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I noticed the most is just the crispness of the game. Like everything just feels sharper. It's easier to read what's going on. I noticed it a lot when we were testing in Arena, which has, like you said, it's still a little more progress, but like you see team fights a lot more often in Arena, and it was a lot easier for me to follow what was going on and understand this person is exactly right here, because it didn't have this kind of blur to everything anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's so much cool stuff going here. I'll demo the grass real quick because it's just really cool.
I love how it just flows in the wind.
Like, but it also reacts to your targeters.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
it doesn't obscure your aim. And it's very stylized kind of grass instead of realistic, which we thought fit Smite really well and gave it a really unique feel. And it's like, this is just what we were able to do. Like, we've really pivoted a lot based on community feedback. So we've been making a lot of these big changes really fast. So I'm just like really excited to see what we can continue to do with more time and energy continued to give to this.
We can touch grass now,
I
boys.
think, some people have been using the word like cartoony as part of a Smite style. And I don't think that cartoony is really the word that we're going for, but stylized is definitely core to what Smite 1 was, and I think something we needed to get more of into Smite 2. Initially our thoughts for Smite 2 was we're going to try and lean a little bit more on like the cinematic style of Smite, but it just
I'm sure they'll talk about it, Howie,
we hear
but
you, and hopefully this feels a lot
they
better.
said with the change to art style plus an optimization patch, they've been seeing on average like 40% better performance.
All right, I guess
since
while
the
we're
last
on the
alpha.
topic, we can move on to the next section, which is closely related to a lot of
they
this,
might
which
talk
is,
about that.
Performance.
Yes.
Oh.
Lots of work going into performance.
Alex, do you want to kick that off? Or
Yeah. So I am not a technical person, but I will explain my best. So several of our engineers have been taking a really, really deep dive into performance to the point where every playtest that we do, we are logging the performance of each tick of the game. So basically like each frame that it's drawing. And they're looking at each individual process that's running during each frame and what's slowing the game down. And it has made a very substantial difference. The other thing that we are doing now that we weren't doing in previous alphas that we're still working on, it's not 100% there yet, is we are pre-caching some
more
of
spoilers.
Basically, like when FX and audio are called by the engine, they have to run through a conversion at runtime to make them usable by the engine. And now we're pre-caching that, so it doesn't need to do that during the game, so you should feel a lot less hitches. So generally, the game should feel a lot smoother overall with a lot fewer hitches. And also, it should just run at a better frame rate overall. Your individual experience is going to be different depending on what your PC setup is. Some people have seen drastic changes. One of our artists, one of our concept artists who works remote, said that on his home PC, he went from, and I don't want to oversell this because this is his setup and I don't know what settings he was on, but he went from like 60 frames a second to like over 100 frames a second.
Right.
On my home PC, I run medium settings, and I have like a 5-year-old computer. I run medium settings at like 90 frames a second now. So it's still not perfect. We're still working on the optimizations. We still have a lot to do, but I think you should notice a lot of performance improvements which are really
Performance
hard to talk
improvement is
about,
very
and you just
big.
kind of have to feel.
Very big,
So,
you know? Super
please
important.
let us know if the game
Quick,
is running
spoilers.
better on your
Well,
computer, or if
there's
you're
7
seeing
items.
things that are causing performance issues. To let us know.
Kind of.
I also want to shout out the environment art team who have helped with the performance as well. Some of our performance issues previously were actually due to things in the environments, and they've done a lot of work in addition to these art changes to do performance improvements. So it's really a lot better.
Yeah, well said. I mean, it's really
What's
it's one
the
of those things that
orange
just-
star on the
it takes
minimap?
a lot of time and effort and work to focus on
What
performance
is
and get
that
it done. For a
orange
long
star
time,
on
our
the
main goal
minimap?
is just adding content to the game and getting more playable characters, playable modes, etc. But now's the time. We really buckled down and dedicated a lot of engineering time and art time into getting that performance. Even designers, it was something we were able to do in all departments to improve that performance, and it's really paying off for us in our playtesting. We hope you see it too.
Yeah,
And if anything is giving you big hitches, report it, let us know. We'll tackle it for the next patch.
Every hour or two, there's a post in our Slack, which is like an internal messaging thing if you don't have Slack. That's like a screenshot of this, tick graph. That's like this little thing is taking 3 milliseconds to run. Somebody needs to look at this, and we're like, oh god.
Unreal
getting
Insights
into
for
the
those of you who are
crazy.
interested in the development process. Epic and the
So we've
Unreal
got
Engine have
massive
Unreal
art
Insights, a
reworks
tool that you
and
can
massive
use to look at this. It's
performance
really cool
improvements
and really useful
already.
and we've been using it a lot.
Already.
All right. Well, the next thing is kind of a larger subject. People were talking about it in chat when you kind of teased it a little bit, AJ.
Yeah, spoilers.
Item shop
Yeah.
kind of updates
Yeah.
and items in general.
I bought a whole bunch of tier 2s, which was intentional. I'm not,
was
I'm
intentional.
better at Smite than that. But all right, let's rattle off some of these exciting item store changes. All right, I'm just going to let's go through them and then we'll look at them.
Cool,
We'll
let's
just
do
talk
it.
about them real quick. But first, so we're adding the short description view mode in the item store. That's what you're used to, the default on Smite 1.
Smite 1
Adding
PC.
additional dividers between stat categories for better viewing. We'll show you that in a second. We're adding a lot of gameplay changes to the item store, so a lot of UI to support that. So starter items are returning with with upgrades. Consumables and wards are returning and will now function like Smite 1 consumables and wards. And active item slots are getting a pretty interesting change to their design. They're mostly going to work like how you're used to, but we're going to do a lot more interesting stuff on the HUD and the UI to better facilitate that. And as part of that, we will be capping the number of actives you can buy to 3 actives. So let's go in game and then
They
let's
brought
look at some
back
of these
consumable
features.
Yeah,
slots,
and,
which took up 2 buttons, so they had
if
to
you could
lower
actually,
the amount of buttons that you
can
can
make
press
the
on
item
your
store
bar.
small for 1 second? Because chat was talking about it already. I just
The
want to
item
mention
store
it.
small?
Yeah. No. Just close it. Sorry.
close it.
Close it.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. Another thing that you'll notice is that we continue to iterate the UI. I saw people talking about it in chat, so I just want to and one of the things that this most recent pass is
The
doing is
UI
it's,
with these active items?
It's changing the colors of all the health bars to be
So good.
more
You
readable.
guys are gonna love
and
this.
it's reducing the amount of brightness overall in the UI. We thought it was so loud that it was kind of like overstimulating and clashing and making it harder to read the rest of the world as you were running around. So sorry, I just
Minion health
since we're-
bars are a good example there.
Yeah.
Minion health bars now like scale and fade out at a certain distance, so you don't see a whole bunch of like infinite rectangles when you're looking down the lane. A lot of stuff went into it like
Yeah,
that.
it really does make
Team display up here got relocated to a position people are going to be more familiar with.
Yeah, sorry to call that out of order here, but just because we're looking at the UI in general and I see people mentioning it, I was like, might as well mention it.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't had chat up at all because I'm following notes, but I'm
you're
glad
driving.
someone is. Were they hyped about the environment?
They seem pretty hype. Yeah, I would say.
Okay, good. I'm sad I missed the live chat, but I was actually having to pay more attention to the show
Gotta
because
watch the VOD.
I'm in the pon seat today.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my God, remember when you dressed me up like pon for a patch show?
Oh my
In
gosh.
like
That was hilarious.
April Fool's 2016 or
Oh
something.
my goodness. That was a long time.
Okay, anyway, items. So
Items,
here's
yes.
what we mean by the short description mode. So instead of just a huge field of grids, you now have the item with a little bit of text that kind of tells you its unique feature if it has an active,
What's our
or
royal
tells
big?
you like what basic stats it does, the things like that.
And it's worth calling out that this is the default view for PC. If you're playing on console, your default view is going to be the split item store like it is on console currently with short descriptions. Or or with just the icons. So
So split,
yeah.
and then grid detail minimal.
minimal. Yeah. So and
The
even if we have
customization
default
is
settings for a lot of
way
these things now,
better.
what the default does is it
Way
allows us
better.
to say, okay, we have a different default setting for PC and we have a different default setting for console, without needing to have multiple different settings in our in the UI. So it was the quickest way
And
to
they
get
can
this in
cater
so
to
it'll
multiple
feel
platforms now, which is cool.
Normal to people regardless of where you're playing.
Right. So consoles will default to this view, and PC will default to the other one. I guess I can just use the console one.
No, you can use the PC one. I'm sure most people watching the stream are probably PC
so
players.
Back to
sorry
center
to make you change it.
I honestly like centered. I never really used the short, the grid, like the little item grid only in Smite 1. I use this mode, but now I kind of like it in this view with the grid. So yeah, this is what we're talking about for item number 1, or for on the bullet point. Number 2 is these dividers. So previously these were like all, even in the grid, this was just like one big grid. It was like in order, but it didn't have these dividers like this, except for I think just tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But now we have consumables, starters, tier 3 offensive, so you can see all the int and strength items.
They'll get into
Then
the
you can scroll
starters.
through that and
The
see
starter
tier 3
system
defensive. So even if you're like don't
is
really have a
actually
filter going and
okay.
you don't know what you want, you can see. And then hybrid,
It's
these have int
actually
or strength
okay.
and protections or health. And then tier 2s, and then finally tier 1s at the bottom. You can
It's
also invert that.
it's a
That was already
nice
feature
middle ground.
before, but
It's a nice middle
And
ground.
one thing worth mentioning too, because a lot of people haven't noticed this yet, is
Because I was
at the
concerned
top,
about
we still have
as
these
well.
role tabs. So, and these are custom for the god in that role. So if you want to play, I don't know who you're on right now. Are you on?
I'm on her.
If you want to play on her mid, these are items that you might want to build to play on her mid. So it's kind of like a recommended build for that role.
Right.
So if you're looking for a really simple way of figuring it out, and I believe that if you call a role, we're actually going to default you to.
that's not in
Not in
this
yet.
patch.
Okay.
That'll be something
Eventually, we will
when
default
work-
you to the step.
Yeah, when we get to roll queue and things like that, we'll be working on stuff like that. But yeah, if you're playing a god in any role, these filters are really helpful to give you a much smaller list of items. You know, this is a more traditional basic attack focused build. If you switch to jungle or mid for on her, that's a more traditional ability like hunter build, like you would be familiar from Smite 1. Let's see, going through the list. Okay, consumables.
Yeah, let's talk about consumables.
Yeah, this is a big one.
So here we go. We have consumables now. in the
Consumable
filter.
slots are back,
You can now
just like
buy,
they work in
your
Smite
wards
1.
and sentry wards. You will no longer get a free ward, and there will be no cooldowns on them. Potions work the same as they have been. We added health chalice, so solo laners. That was some big feedback for solo lane really wanting that. But yeah, these work like you'd expect in Smite 1. You can have up to 2 vision wards and 1 sentry ward in your inventory at one time. They go into specific slots that are no longer getting mixed up with your item inventory. They have dedicated hotkeys to them. These are the exact same default hotkeys that you would use on PC or on Savage or Challenger on console. So your relic, your consumable 1 and consumable 2 will all be exactly what you're used to based on Smite 1. We are keeping with the only 1 relic. We'll talk about maybe that more in a little bit, but you'll pick your relic at the start of the game. You can't sell it or change it or upgrade it.
Yep.
You'll pick your 1 relic, but then when you load into the game, you can pull through your build as you would be more familiar with in Smite 1, and you can build consumables as such. I don't have starters on this list, but I might as well show it off right now too, and then we'll talk a little bit more about them in a bit. But yeah, starters are back. One of the most exciting new features for starters is, you might be seeing, what's this little guy right here?
Oh yeah.
What's that?
What's
We now have
that?
a starter item slot. It
We have
no longer
7 slots.
disrupts
It's a starter
your
item
6
slot.
item build. It is. We are now fully 7 slotted.
So it
Smite
doesn't
2
limit your
gods.
build at all.
And this
It's a
this is kind of
dedicated
like a best of
slot,
both
so you
worlds, we
still
think,
get
because,
6 items.
It still lets people have
entirely
that
separate.
choice at the beginning of the game, which can help
So it
gods
doesn't limit
excel
your build
in
in
different
any
roles
way,
than maybe they
which
otherwise
was my main
would.
concern.
But you still have a
And it
lot
doesn't.
of build diversity with where you go after that, and you can build in any direction. So we aren't taking away anything from your 6-slot build. We're just adding another item on top of that.
So, sorry, I was just cursing to myself because these got out of order. They were by role,
Rip.
but Chaos Row, if you're watching, double check this because
Live QA people.
these got shifted around. We were doing some resorting of the store to, items are going to be sorted by cost, ascending cost. Support ones are cheaper. Right now, there's 2 per role. And there is 1 upgrade per starter. Like, this is still 30 unique, complicated items that we made in a month. We were moving full
Cooking.
time, nonstop, 3+ designers working on this, and this is how many we could get in. So I know there was still some requests for more starter items or more upgrades. This was the literal most we could make because we also made a shit ton of other items. We'll talk about that later, though. Let's see. Consumable. I will go back over starters in a bit if we want to, but I want to talk about active items.
Still
next.
can't
is a
upgrade
big
them
one.
till level 20,
Yeah,
like
so
a classic starter
with the
item.
return of the consumables, you now have a lot of hotkeys that are not freed up. So with active items, we wanted to find a right balance where you have a lot more skill expression, a lot more control, but we're not like digging into the absolute dregs of hotkeys where you're having to.
This part is
buy a
cool
Naga,
for the
or
UI.
like controller players are just not able to do
really
it.
nice
So
for
we're going
your
to be capping
eyeballs.
to 3 active items. So when you browse an active item, you'll now see you can own up to 3 active items at once. When you buy 3 active items, you will no longer be able to buy any more active items. So we don't really let you make that mistake now. Once you bought it, you won't be. It'll be as if you couldn't afford it or you don't have the right
get
level or
3
whatever. You just
active
can't buy it.
items.
So
Tops.
I'm gonna go ahead and buy.
You literally
Bloodforge.
cannot buy a 4th
And
one.
wait, where'd it go? Oh, it went to the wrong slot. Of course. Let's see if this works yet. I bought too many items.
There
okay,
you go.
thank God, it's fixed. So when you buy
Look at the UI.
active item over here, it now puts an active ability
So
on
good.
your ability section of your HUD.
So
And you
good.
can really clearly see this is an active. This will help you remember. A lot of people are saying
So
they just forget
much
to use
better.
their actives. They want to move their HUD around. And, maybe we have HUD editor coming soon. We had alternate HUDs. But, this is just a really clean way to do this.
Yep.
And if you buy 1 active item, that'll use the same hotkey as your second relic did on Savage, Challenger, or PC. So if you are working like this type of build with 2 consumables, a relic, and 1 active, and there's many builds like passive statted items have some stat benefits to them, so you don't necessarily want a ton of actives. This allows you to have the same control scheme as Smite 1 if you want to, and gives you a lot more control in what your second relic type active is, and you can always buy more if you want. Did you want to add something, Alex?
No, I was just going to say, that most builds internally for most gods have 1 active on them in our playtest, right? So if you have 1 active, it is just the same as Smite 1 in terms of your button mapping. It's very familiar. And then the other 2 button mappings basically we figured that there's 2 really good button mappings, or excuse me, there's 3 really good button mappings, and beyond that it starts to feel bad. Yeah. So none of these feel bad to hit on controller or on PC. So we are still implementing a lot of this. So you see this item appear doubly here, but we wanted to give you guys an early look at this today and make sure that we're on the right track.
I thought about saying your
I didn't
name
have
thing.
enough gold to buy
He
the
did.
3rd active anyway,
He did
so this
bug
is
it.
what you can see what it looks like.
He
if you
did
have
bug
full
it out.
3
He sure
actives.
did.
Even though I did trigger a bug state. It's a known bug. It'll be fixed by the time. We're still really early out, by the way. We usually don't do the show this early for a new patch.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away from when we would normally do this.
But this is what it would look like if you had the 3 actives. I don't know why I'm running out of base. I'm not going to get enough gold in time. If you navigate to yet another active item. Oh, I don't have all 3 yet, but it'll turn red
up, Kat?
and tell you can't get it. Kind of like let's see, what level am I? Level 8. Okay. No, I can't really demo that right now, unfortunately, but there will be warnings and it will prevent you from buying more actives. And you can reorder the items in your inventory to reorder the hotkeys that you want them to be on. Right. So if I like my Bloodforge on G, it's always on G. I can just move that like that. So that is the new active system.
Yeah.
That's
It's
active
better.
system.
We're gonna go with a little bit into
Much better.
some actual game.
The only downside
stuff
to
here. We're not
this
gonna go into
is
the full
that
details
support
of
builds are
everything, but
limited to 3
there's 2
active
big bullet
items.
points we want to touch on
And there
today that were
was some
community
fun
feedback driven and kind of high
support
level.
builds with 4
so
and
first one was
5,
starters.
but
So bringing back starters. Starters do have
it'll make
stats
the
and
game
costs,
more
so the initial
accessible,
starting
but
build was
still
bumped up
more
a little bit.
skill-based
Your
than
initial
Smite,
starting
so it's
loadout.
okay. It's
You
okay.
can still buy a starter, a tier 1, and some potions, or a starter and a chalice, a lot of similar combinations you're used to. But I think you have a lot of possible interesting combinations in Smite 2 because there's some tier 2s you can now afford, I think, which is interesting. They're really strong, and you can come back and build a starter, later if you don't need one. Starters also, the upgrades have level requirements. So supports are level 15 and are cheaper, whereas every other role is level 20 and more expensive. This one's cheaper, looks cheaper because I already own it. So 2150 plus level 20 for non-supports, level 15 and 1800 for supports. So not going to get into the details of all of these today, but most of them are, direct designs from Smite 1. Some of them have some slight adjustments,
the aspect has been deleted.
Selflessness is just like mini heroism.
I asked that exact question.
Direct
I said, if we have starter items now, does that mean aspects are
baby
gone?
version.
And they are, yes. Aspects were removed, replaced with the starter item slots.
Heroism. We didn't want to bring back sentinels here because we're avoiding AoE protections auras. So we didn't want an item that was the starter is kind of defined by that. But yeah, a couple of other things you'll notice, some things like that. You'll notice some new things, but the starters are mostly what you're used to. There's 2 per role, so there's pretty good choice opportunities for every role, and you can build them in any role you want. So if you want to go Warriors Axe, support, kill lane in duo, you can totally do that. You don't have to build War Flag or Selflessness. So you can just go for that burst damage. You can build Bluestone on mid, on physical characters. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do.
Yeah, we're still benefiting from our more wide open building in Smite 2, but we're just now incorporating starters into that. Yeah. So it's been pretty neat to see what people have done in testing so far.
Yeah, we'll talk about that even more in a bit. All right, so the next big thing,
got more to
high-level
come.
feedback, is the total item pool. So there was 2 things kind of about this. Number one is there was a lot of Smite 2 items that ended up just being really close to Smite 1 items. And that was kind of confusing to people and wasn't really, like, the newness wasn't really a benefit. The new name and new art really wasn't doing much for us. And the other one was just like a lot of bread and butter comfort items that people loved from Smite 1 were just not in the game.
Yeah.
So we ported over 20 of the most popular tier 3 items of Smite 1
20
into
more
Smite 2,
items.
all between Alpha 4 and this patch.
Yes.
So we made 20 plus tier 3 items.
Not
20
including
starter items.
Yeah, the starters.
No, 10 starter items and 10 starter upgrades.
It's a lot of freaking
Smite
items.
2 Alpha 4 versus Smite
It's a
24/7
lot of
has
freaking items.
plus 40 items in the total item pool.
It's a big change.
Not to mention all of the reworks, or like in-place reworks due to naming conventions and confusions and stuff like that. So I'm just going to read off this list really quick for what's going to be in Smite 1.
And they
Crusher,
made
Serrated
the
Edge, Devourer's
building
Guide,
items
Transcendence,
easier
Heartseeker,
for
Book of
people.
Thoth, Spirit
I
of
never thought it
Desolation,
was
Soul
hard to
Gem, Duomorph,
understand,
Spirit Robe,
but
Glorious
it's got-
Ruin,
it's-
Prophetic Cloak, Shifter Shield, Shield of the
Basically
Phoenix,
works
Voidstone,
like
Void
Smite
Shield,
1.
Berserker Shield, Mystical Mail, Rod of Tahuti, Genji's Guard, Gauntlet of Thieves, and Chalice of Healing.
Yeah, and I think what we've noticed internally since getting these items back is that it's made some people that don't play as often, but maybe played a lot of Smite 1, more able to
You can actually
explore the item
tell
system and
if
feel
you
a little
look
more
at the
comfortable with
items
it,
on the right-hand
because it's
side.
like, okay, well, I know that this item is good on this character. I can build that, and then maybe I branch
It's
out
not
and I try
exactly
something new, but
like
I'm not
Smite
just
1.
completely
It's like a
screwing myself
hybrid
by
between
building
the two
items that I shouldn't be
systems.
building at all. It gives you a couple,
But it's much more similar.
like waypoints in your build where you know a direction, and it's really made it a lot easier for people to understand and get with.
The familiarity goes a long way for people who are just, hopping into Smite 2, maybe have had a chance to dig into the item store really, really deeply, but this new change allows people coming over from Smite 1 that are familiar with those items to hop into Smite 2 and immediately get a sense of, okay, I know what this item does. I like this item. I'm going to build it.
We've also redone every starter or every auto build to include starters. You will still have to pick your relic. So when you load into a match, you'll pick your auto build or manual build, and you'll pick a relic.
Oh, we haven't talked about what relics we have. Is that later, or is that?
I have that in.
It's next.
It's the next.
Okay,
bullet
sorry.
point, yeah.
I'm
no, you're
jumping in.
perfect segue. We have the relics in the shop just as a way to view them, and in case you click the undo button too much at the start of the game, you can buy them back this way. But we have added 2 more relics as far as we're adding a bunch of fan favorites to the game. You can still only have 1 relic, but we're adding a few more. Phantom Shell was brought in because people were saying they supports really wish they had a relic they could choose at the beginning of the game if they really want to hyper focus on not getting killed or letting their teammate get killed.
Aegis is
'Cause,
back.
like, just having blinker beads or something,
but
like all very aggressive.
you're-
Or, like,
you'd
blink is
be
just you can
choosing
evade. You didn't really have a way
Aegis
of, like, if your carry
over
is a little
beads
new
and
and you
blink.
just want something extra to bail them out, you didn't really have an option at level 1.
I think it's
so
a
that's Phantom Shell.
huge
And then
bait.
of course Aegis in a similar regard. If you just want to
I think it's a huge
some high
bait.
DPS character.
Because I thought about
you
getting
can now
upset
start with
about it,
Aegis.
but
And
then
we
I was
went
like,
ahead and
wait a
just went
second.
right to the
Why would you
highest
want
level of upgrades
Aegis?
to these Aegis of Acceleration, Phantom Shell.
Why
Oh,
would
no,
you want
the
Aegis?
minions are starting to get into the base.
Uh-oh.
It's okay. This
You know what
section
I'm
is
saying?
almost done.
I actually think it's a
one thing
bait
that's
relic.
really important to mention about bringing back Aegis and bringing these more relics here is that no matter what, you're only going to have 1 relic in the game, right? So if you pick Aegis, that means you're not getting combat blink, which everybody knows is
Or
super
beads.
OP.
Yeah.
Or beads, which sometimes you just need beads in a match. Or you're not getting shell, which shell can be really useful. Like, you are giving up something really strong to get Aegis, and you're
I
probably
actually
hurting yourself in
don't
some other
mind
ways,
Aegis
right?
in this
So
one
Aegis
relic
is something
system.
that we wanted to
I
bring into
actually
the
don't
game
mind
mainly
it.
because there are certain gods that have like almost like execute type abilities that you can't counter in another way easily, and it felt important for that type of gameplay. but you are not going to pick it every game. People are not going to have beads and Aegis every game. You're going to have beads or Aegis or Blink, or it's one of them. So it really changes the power level of these and the decisions that you're making. So you're not going to run into a lot of Aegis. You're not going to run it. It's there more for like niche situations.
Yeah. And we have a lot of really interesting balance knobs for we have the blood shields, as we call them. So you can get like a personal shell and purification beads, but you can't get Aegis, and there's a big trade-off there. You can get the AoE beads if you don't pick your beads relic, but that's a pure health
item. Yeah,
it's a pure health item too. It's like kind of a tank item. So it's like there are some interesting trade-offs there, and we really specifically discuss with our
there's still more exciting stuff coming. This patch is so good.
About what combinations
it's so
felt good to allow
so excited
have
to play
active
Smite
items
2.
as a fallback relic, or some we just didn't want. Like we didn't want you being able to get active Aegis and relic Aegis.
I'm excited
double
that you guys get to know about all
that,
this
right? So. Yeah. All right. Last thing about item building is what we're calling the simplified component system. So we're still building in the component system like in Smite 2, where when you build an item, it's going to come up from components that fuse together as opposed to the linear upgrade tree. But we've reworked every single item in the game to have a lot more clean upgrade paths. So what we've done is that every upgrade is either 2 components or just 1 component in gold. There's no more 3 components. There's no more tier 1s jumping right to tier 3s. It's all much more direct. And in most cases, you can still, if you just want to browse the tier 3s and double click stuff, that will work for you and won't really change much. It won't mess up your inventory as much as it did before. We're also making the tier 2 to tier 3 upgrades a lot more meaningful. So if you own both of these items, it's still $850 gold to upgrade, and that's on the cheap side. Some of them are much more expensive. In the previous versions of Smite 2, owning both of the tier 2 items was getting you like 95% of the way there. Maybe it was just a little bit of gold more to buy, which really didn't make it feel like you got any power spike. It wasn't really noticeably different. It didn't really feel like, it felt like you might as well sit in base and wait for it to upgrade it, because you're just like, I might as well do it, it's so cheap. Or when you do finally save up for it, you don't get anything. So it just didn't feel as good. So we rebalanced everything to make the tier 2 to tier 3 jump much bigger. We reworked everything to only use round numbers. So, for the most part, some low tier items are for stats like mana regen. That's actually mana per second, not 5 seconds. So things like that are some that we couldn't do. But for the most part, everything uses more clean numbers you're used to in both cost and stats.
Yeah, this is one of those things that you appreciate
much more straightforward.
When you actually experiment with it. But you have so many.
Die again.
Yeah, you have so many fewer
much more
items that clog
straightforward.
up your inventory. It's so much easier to navigate through the trees and understand where it goes. And again, this is like work in progress, right? We have a lot of ideas for how to improve that item tree view and make it even easier to understand going forward. And in the next update, we'll have even more.
Yeah,
but this is where we were able to get to for this update, and we think it's a great improvement and it's a lot better. Please let us know when you play with it. Like, is this feeling better? Is this more on the right track? Because we don't want building.
It should
to
be
overwhelming.
easier
It's a
for
core
people
part
to
of Smite.
understand.
It needs to be
It should
accessible,
be.
but we want it to have a little bit more depth and a little bit
While
more interest
also
to
being
people
just
that want
generically
to go
better
that
than
extra
Smite
step and
1's ability.
really try and min-max
Item
it.
trees
There's a lot
are
of
for
balance
balance.
benefits to using the component system too, where we can keep
Ajax,
stats at a consistent value across items instead of Smite.
Don't say what I
1,
say
where just
when
like
I say it.
One power tree.
Don't say
physical
what I
power
say
tree
when I
had
say it.
wildly different cost per power than other power tree, and it was just like. There's some weird balance things that this system does better. So you also notice, like when you click on, if I'm clicking on a tier 1 here, I only can see the tier 2s it builds into instead of a bunch of like additional nonsense.
I can't see right now. We're in a different view.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize the top of my screen was cut off up there.
Yeah, okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, you click on a tier 1, you can see the 2 tier 2s it builds into. You click on the tier 2, you can see the tier 3s it builds into. The previous system had a lot more mix and match and noise and things like that. So, all right. We showed the relics. We showed we talked about the HUD. We have another HUD feature we want to talk about. Oh, I lost. Or I won. My Winions won. I was so busy defending my
Can you bring us back to cameras, please?
My Winions won.
Thank you.
Oh, good call. Thank you, Isaiah.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
We do want to show off a new screen. Let me get back in the game real quick. It'll only take a second.
I'll put jungle practice or something,
Oh, Conquest is so pretty now, though.
That's true, yeah.
Jungle practice looked good this morning when I was running around.
Jungle practice has had a lot of updates too. We got to save some things for the main.
Winions,
right?
classic
Spoil everything.
Winions.
But this next one is one more UI feature, and then we're going to talk about some God features, and then we'll talk about a system.
Ability,
and
individual castings are back.
All these were the major features
kind
that
of.
we like.
Kind of.
It's what we took away from your feedback after the last alpha test, right? And if we missed something major, let us know. But
Definitely.
this was what we were able to get done based on the feedback that we heard from the last alpha test, and we're going to take your feedback from the next alpha test, and we're going to keep working on making it better from there. So,
Okay, I'm almost loaded. Not yet. Camera. Okay, camera can come in. Just because we didn't see this before, so you pick your auto build, critical, for a hunter, critical strike or penetration build. Choose manual, and then here's your relic choices. You can pick whichever one you want. I like choosing combat blink for testing because I often like the movement. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the abilities screen. A lot of people wanting a way to see all your abilities at a glance really quickly. You can also use this to level up while holding the button or going through a console flow that people are used to in Smite 1 that'll behave very much like it. But now you can see the whole kit at one quick glance at a press of a button.
Yeah, and we still have some polish to do on this screen, but we think it's it's a nice way to see all of your
much less
at once
intrusive than
very quickly.
Smite 1's K screen
And
for
then
sure.
you can also, as AJ said, you can level up from the screen. So if you want to push, hold down control to see the screen and then push 1, you can level up your number 1 ability that way. So, yep.
Or it's whatever you have bound the ability to.
Right.
So you don't if you put your ability on I use Q, you press this Q instead of 3. But yeah.
And the other thing is,
oh, you can see a little hint of it there.
yeah, that's where it'll show if you could upgrade the ability, how the ability would upgrade. Which
It'll show you you're getting damage increase or cooldown decrease or whatever. It'll just show you a little summary there.
Yeah, and the F1, F2, F3, F4 keys are still hotkeys that will still work without pulling up the screen if you don't want this screen to obscure your view or anything.
I'm telling you, man.
This is just supposed to be a clear
I'm telling
way
you,
of,
man.
I see the thing, I push the button that does
So
the thing,
much
and I get
exciting
the thing upgraded.
stuff.
So, the other thing that we will have in this build is you will be able to change your cast type by per ability, but it's going to be in the settings screen here, and
it's universal right now.
It's not saved per god.
This is an account-wide.
It's a
setting.
global
It's an account-wide
setting.
setting at the moment. So we just wanted to make sure that we had this in there because we got a lot of feedback about it. But it's we will eventually have it in on a per god setting.
Thank you, Mocha.
This was just because we wanted to make sure that we had some ability to do this in for the next test.
We also have the double tap to fire. Big community feedback.
Yes, and a lot of people.
Double tap to
tap to
fire will
fire.
now be disabled by default. You'll have to come in here and enable it.
Well,
double tap.
Last
to
was
fire,
super
default,
pissed about
it's
that one.
enabled by
So-
default if you're on console, but because it is default on
Right,
console.
right,
ultimately.
right.
But it's off by default if you're on PC. So
Last really
Thank you
wants
for
that.
clarifying.
So
And there's
he'll
a
be
lot more
happy
settings
about
changes
that.
stuff we're not going to go through today, but those are relevant to what we're talking about. Okay, let's move on to gods.
Yeah, that was a lot of item
Yep.
changes.
You can turn double tap on or off.
I don't think we'll be able to really be able
Yep.
to see much in the game at this point. You can probably come back to the face cams for
Yep.
this section, but two big features for gods that we're going to talk about today. The first one is about the actual design of the gods and how they play and how they function. The other one is just polish and feel. So let's talk about the game design first. So all gods in Smite 2 will only deal 1 damage type. So they only deal 1 damage type in Smite 2. We're going to change that. There are more mixed damage types. So Anubis
No more
AO2
mix.
Mummy used
You're
to
either
deal physical damage.
Physical or
That
magical
will no longer
now.
be the case.
Physical or magical.
Each god will have the consistent damage output. So you can still look at
This
Neith
one-
and go,
this
oh,
one
that's a
to
physical
me
god. If
was
Neith
a
is building
lateral move.
Int ability Neith or ADC strength Neith, either way, that's a physical god. You know to build physical protections. You know how to counter that god,
scaling
and you
can still be
recognize
mixed.
that much more easily based on what you're used to from
The
Smite 1.
scaling
So that's
can
the first
still be
change.
mixed, which
That'll
is the fun
affect
part,
any
in
god
my
that had
opinion.
mixed damage outputs.
Yeah, but just to be clear, you still
Damage
will be
type,
able to build strength
physical
or int
magical.
for different scalings.
Scaling,
so, the
you
building
can
still
either
has
be
that element. It's just
one
it'll be
or
more
both.
easy to understand what type of damage
So-
a god is going to be doing to you.
Right. So any god can still build any item. So if you, for example, on her as a full strength god, he only does physical damage. But if you want to build Chronos Pendant for some crazy cooldown build or whatever, sure, you go for it. So gods will be split into 3 groups for their scaling types. They'll have 100% strength scaling, 100% int scaling, or hybrid gods that could have int and strength scaling. So most of this is not going to change. Gods like Chalk can build int or strength to scale their ability damage, but gods like On Her are going to be 100% strength. God Anubis is now just going to be 100% int. There's no more build a little strength to mess with a hard-hitting mummify. That's not a thing anymore. The only exception to that is everyone still has the same basic attack rules, so you can still build strength on any int god and try to build like a meme ADC build, you can't do the inverse, right? Strength gods don't have any use for int. So you'll have to look at each god, and we'll be working on getting some more clear labels about who's intended to be only strength, only int, or who's hybrid. Tanks are going to get a bunch of unique protection scaling abilities on their abilities. So we're going to be adding to all of the tank characters.
This
they'll
part
be able to get some sort of improved,
we don't know the specifics.
Utility effect, potentially a damage effect, or other effects in their kit.
Kind of
from
a
building
little
more
spooky.
protections, they'll actually see new things scale up, and that's going to be really unique. And then to facilitate item building and making it really smooth for all these changes, we're going to be merging physical and magical penetration into just one stat, penetration.
That one's
so
actually
now we
cool.
don't need to have like an int physical pen and an int magical pen in every
That one's actually
combination,
cool.
which was just getting like nonsensical or really limiting to certain builds. So every item will just give you penetration, and you can build that in any combination. of
Pen
strength
is
and
pen!
very easily, and you would have seen that in the store while I was playing earlier. If you go back and look, you'll notice there was just one penetration filter in every strength or int pen. So you can double filter. So just filter to int plus pen or strength plus pen, depending on what you need. Or if you're a hybrid god, you can build one of each. Like Neath mid might actually want builds like that.
Yeah, I think it's really good because it keeps a lot of what we liked about the old system. It just makes it easier to understand, and it also makes tanking work better in the game from my experience so far, in that it's easier to
for
predict
me,
what kind
it's a
of,
nice
defenses, what kind of protections you're going to need.
I liked the
and it's easier
complicated
to understand,
system,
like, how
but
many,
I also
how much pen
understand
people have and
that
all
it
so.
All right.
was a turnoff
So next thing is God
for some Smite 1
polish.
players, and I do think it's
It's
a
going to be
decent
harder
compromise.
to show off anything like this today
I
because it's
do.
really like
I do think
you
it's a
won't notice
decent
it until you
compromise.
really have the character.
As somebody
in your
who
hands
liked
and are
the
playing on
old
your home
system,
setup.
I think it's a
but
decent
we're taking
compromise.
the feedback about how a god feels and plays and what's wrong with them from Smite 1 to Smite 2 really seriously. So we're going to use Susanoo as an example here. I'm just going to rattle off some of the things we've done to Susanoo since his feedback in Alpha 4. Basic attacks, adjusted the post-fire time of hit number 3 to match Smite 1. Ability 1 now has a shorter pre-fire time to better match the animation. Ability 1 now has adjusted animation blend that will make the animation better fit the timing. AO1 now hits knocked up targets. AO1 is now a true sweep attack. It was just a instant attack. It will update the hit area to be more correct and highlight targets correct. Updated the radius by 0.5 meters to make it more accurate to Smite 1. Updated the animations to now have no blend time, so they really snap really closely together in the combo for Susanoo. Like some animations we want to blend out to idle, but these ones are fired really rapid succession or you're in-hand canceling between, so we remove that. Ability 2, we updated the cone size to better match Smite 1. We no wait, I lied here. Pod, I should have fixed your notes more before I read this, but so scratch that one. We updated the blend time on this ability as well. We added a Susanoo's ability 2 is not an instant cone. It actually has a travel time from closest to farthest, which is really important for when there's multiple enemies in the area and ordering them up so they go to the right place. We reworked and fixed all that. We removed blends on knocked up characters who were pulled because they would do some weird visuals, so that will feel snappier. We updated the actual fire
This
time
is
of
the
this
type of
ability
stuff
as well,
that they're
and
trying to do
virtual,
for like
visual effects
the,
and sound
the
effects. Are all
gods to
updated
polish
better
them up and make
match
them feel
the
more like
ability.
Smite 1.
Ability 3, we updated the projectile size to better match
He's still
Smite
literally just
1,
talking about
and
Susanoo.
Ability 4, we better updated the size to match Smite 1. And we're doing that type of list on every god.
Yeah, and to be clear, not every god will have this level of changes heading into this first closed alpha test, right? I think the lesson that we took away from the
I haven't gotten to play this patch. I haven't gotten to play this patch.
We needed to
But
be
supposedly
sure that
it feels a lot better, says Hyrus.
on some of these field things from
They say
Smite
it
1 to
feels
Smite 2,
way better.
where we hadn't previously gotten as much of that kind of feedback. So we're going to be going back through and hitting them kind of rolling wave, kind of like we were talking about the card art before. Right. So you're going to see some of these gods get changes this time, some that we haven't gotten to yet, we'll get it next time. But we want to make sure every god feels as close to Smite 1 as we can make them.
All right.
I mean, but better, right? Not just like a copy of Smite 1. We want to make sure it's not worse than the Smite 1 feel. Right. And in some ways they are in certain ways worse than Smite 1 feels. So we're addressing that.
Sorry, production team. Yeah, we want to make them feel all of the parts that you love about Smite 1 feel as good or better, plus all of the new plus ones in the kit, right? So if we want to hop in Gamer, I'm going to show you a few things for our next 2 items. So the next 2 items in our note is a visual effects clarity pass and impact pass, and an audio clarity pass and theming pass, I would say. So this is not done for all the gods either, but is in progress. Ymir is one of the ones who's most furthest along. So his abilities, we don't have a before and after to show you here, but all of his effects have been updated since Alpha 4, specifically to make them easier to see in a combat sense. So there was just maybe a bit too much going on, some really bright colors, hard contrasts, things that maybe work well in a more cinematic situation. But if we're trying to battleground of the gods here, we need to know what's going on better. And this also helps performance by doing a very tight look at these and keeping the parts we need the most. So Ymir and every other god will be getting a full audit for excessive effects, flashing things that can be disorienting or fatiguing, clarity issues with mismatching sizes or timings, or just overly artistic elements that weren't contributing to the clarity. All of those things are getting a second pass on them, and it's going really well, and they're looking really good.
Yeah, hopefully we'll make combat look
I noticed the most looking at Ymir's
less confusing.
They used to have just
when it all adds up.
Really bright white areas, which looked really good and really icy in isolation, but the more you saw it in the span of a fight with a lot of other bright effects, it was overwhelming. The game was yelling at you, you know? And so we took that feedback and we went back, and it still has a lot of the same feel, but it's just going to read a lot better in combat and not be so overwhelming on things that don't need to be overwhelming. But if you do like the Frost Breath again, you'll see that like the Frost Breath has a bright glow to it when it happens, because that's something that you need to be warned about, right? When you do the Glacial Strike, there's a glow to the roll that's brighter, because that's the part that you're warning about, because this thing is coming, right? The effects just read better in terms of understanding the combat.
Well, also just being on the ground and being a little bit paler is going to help you see anything on top of it, where if that was really bright, you would lose other things going over it. So things like that, and it's making a big difference.
It really is. And it's making a game is a million little things, right? And this is one of those little things that's going to make a big difference. Yeah.
So shout outs to the whole art team who's
should be quite nice
to go through this. It's and shout out to the community who are enjoying this entire ride.
It feels like the Smite 1 devs finally got to work on it and said, let's fix this mess. I just think that 90% of high-res is now working on Smite 2, so they can
Clarity's going to have a similar thing. So
they got the team, they got the pipeline set up,
love from Smite 1 will be brought back into Smite 2. So On Her's Javelin Impale Throw is gonna be the Smite 1 sound. There's been just a lot of back and forth and confusion and a lot of negative feedback about things changing too much in that regard. So we're doing a lot of those, just bringing back the sounds that you know and love, and the ones that are most important to the kits. We're also doing a wide range clarity pass for just kind of the rules, some of the hidden rules around the audio for the characters that really contribute a lot to making the characters feel good. One good example that we found was swing audio versus hit audio, which it sounds like in this current build, I can't really hear much, so sorry, I can't really demo this very well right now, but Smite 2, a lot of our initial passes, the character swinging their weapon was far too loud. And that made it really hard to tell when you were hitting something, because you couldn't hear the hit sound.
So the guy that asked about the hit sounds earlier.
The swing sound, and it made the characters just really noisy, just kind of moving around. So rebalancing a lot of things like that to make the game just sound better. A lot of work going into that. Yeah. Anything to add? We're going long today. We still got one big feature to get to too.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'd say is another area of audio that we didn't really talk about is when somebody dies.
Oh yeah.
We were missing a lot of the audio feedback that you get in Smite 1 when somebody dies. And that was that
gold explosion.
The gold explosion, the ka-chunk sound, an enemy has been slain. Yeah. All of that was missing from the most recent couple alpha builds. So we think that understanding when somebody has died and
flew to me.
Yeah, see that gold flying to you? All that stuff is there in Smite 1, and that helps you understand when people are being killed and read the flow of combat. So we're hoping that with that in, The flow of combat reads a little bit better. We're also changing the FX. I'm not sure if they're in yet or if they're going to be in for Closed Alpha 1, but the kind of like fade out effects when you kill somebody. Yeah, you see they have that upward burst now too. That helps make it more clear when somebody's died. We still really like these like effects on somebody dying rather than the animations, because those animations were so different from God to God that those were actually really hard to read unless you've played 8,000 hours of Smite.
Lingered forever.
And they lingered forever. So we think that this is actually the right direction for Smite 2. We just need to make it work. So we're doing a lot of
Personally,
work
I
on
have
this,
no
and
opinion
I
on
think,
it.
I think it's reading a lot better.
Lateral
so we'd love
move
your
for me.
feedback when you guys play. Hopefully it
In terms of like death animation versus glowy effect,
it's
I
gonna be a
actually
little
don't.
bullet point,
I
but
don't
I don't
have
want
a
to
preference.
undersell the amount of technical work that went into it. So
As
shout
long
out
as it's
to,
clear cut
Chaos
what's
and team
happening,
for,
that's all I care about.
Minion knockback AI and grouping, just a full pass on minions to make sure they behave
They
and
fixed
feel
the
more
minions,
like
guys.
Smite 1.
Supposedly they fixed them.
On for years
you
and years
hit
and
them
years,
and they
our-
don't go
you know,
all
our players
winky
obviously
wonky
really, really
donkey
like,
every
yeah,
other
it's okay,
direction.
I'm okay. But
Supposedly.
yeah, just really making sure their knockbacks feel like more like what you're used to. Oh man, I just one-shot that whole wave. Okay, so my power scaling is a little off here in jungle practice, but yeah, big change. A lot of the like players, especially solo laners, were like really feeling this. It matters a lot into the solo lane at a competitive level. So we want to make sure that the Smite, solo lane is as competitive as ever in Smite 2. So we spent a significant amount of time getting that tuned up.
Yeah, I think it's just
That was so
minions
annoying.
should behave much
So
more
annoying.
predictably and not just I hit it and he goes back too far, or the wave unclumps, or he gets distracted and starts attacking this other thing that he wouldn't have in Smite 1. And now, all of those little things are just so much better. It feels so much more natural to clear a wave. And it really is a big feels
One of the
improvement.
big things, and I believe we have a short video for tomorrow, but like characters with leaps, before there was an issue where minions would just run away from you whenever you go in the air, and it'd make it hard to clear. And that's being
Yeah,
reverted to
AI issue.
more like Smite 1, to where they'll just
Good,
stay in
good,
place
good,
even
good.
if you're in
Good,
the air
good,
mid
good.
leap for those characters that use leaps to clear the wave.
Can we hide the game screen while I switch us to the next section? And Alex, you want to set us up for the next one?
Yeah, so one of the other really big features that we're going to have in Closed Alpha 1 is God progression, God mastery, right? So when you're playing a game, it's always great to feel like you have something to play for, right? And one of my first objectives when I started playing Smite back in the day before I worked here was I'm going to get every god to mastery level 1. That's like my goal. And
We can learn me and get
every god to mastery level 10. Yeah. We know that having something to grind for and to see you're making progress as you're playing the game is really important. So we wanted to get that system in for 24/7 Alpha. But we know that the way that mastery works in Smite 1 has a lot of things that are really good about it and a lot of things that are kind of like, eh. So one of the things that's really great about Smite 1 is that it's this endless, keep getting stars. You can always make more progress and show how devoted you are to your god, right? One thing that's bad is that you really don't get anything for mastering your god other than numbies going up, right? You get the ability to purchase 3 mastery skins. That is what you get in Smite 1. Mastery level 1, Mastery level 5, and Mastery level 10, which is not really great. So with Smite 2, we wanted to look at that progression.
This system's
and how
cool.
can we make that feel more rewarding, give more rewards, more interesting rewards, and make it
And the
something that's
cosmetics
kind
are
of a fun
freaking sick.
experience as you go
This
from
is the
1 to
Ascension
10,
passes, which
with
is
each god. So because
Ascension
of
pass,
that, we've introduced Ascension
worshippers,
passes, which if you have bought a
same thing, basically.
Ultimate, or what's the mid-level one called?
Deluxe.
Founders Edition. You've already purchased some of these, so hopefully you're excited about what you see here. But
The
yeah,
difference
so
is free
basically,
path,
as you're playing
premium
each
path.
god,
Free
you'll
path,
progress
premium
along
path.
kind of like a mini battle pass track as you gain worshippers, just like you're mastering your god in Smite 1, but you'll be able to see it better. And you'll unlock new rewards, including a lot of new kinds of rewards, which are really exciting and let you personalize
Some of the rewards are
your
really cool.
representation of your character a lot more,
Including
than you
new
could in Smite
customization.
1. So I think
Like
that's
brand
a
new
decent little
customization. I hope they
spiel
show
before
it.
we go to the screen. Anything that
Yeah,
I
go
should
show
talk
it.
about before
It's
we
cool.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
we'll look at the screen and you can go ahead and keep walking us through whatever you'd like to.
Okay,
I've
so
got it pulled up right now.
Let's look at the screen. Okay, so this is the screen. Shadow
Skids are back.
There are both free and paid rewards on the track at different levels. One thing to call out right away is that we've rebalanced the way that you progress through this, where it's going to take the same amount of worshipers to get from mastery level 0 to mastery level 10, but you're going to get to mastery level 5 more quickly. So you'll get the first 5 tiers of rewards much more quickly. Now, if we can go to the free reward for level 1, you're going to get the clap emote for free now as part of just leveling up your god.
And
if you go to level 7, I'll come back to that in a second.
Okay.
If you go to level 7, you're going to get the wave emote for free just for leveling up your god.
Yep.
And keep in mind, you also just get the voice pack for every god just free by default in Smite 1, so you don't have to buy those ever.
Right.
Now,
The system
at
is
the bottom,
sick.
you also note there's like times 10 diamonds. Diamonds are the new premium currency in Smite 2. So what we had gems in Smite 1, in Smite 2 we have diamonds. So you're going to earn, as you play through, I believe the number is 225 diamonds on the free track.
That's a lot of diamonds.
That's
for
a
playing
lot
God
of diamonds
just playing
for playing
Smite
a god
free.
for free. And then on the paid track at level 10, you will also get 225 diamonds. Spoiler on the Radiant skin. So you'll get 450 diamonds just by playing through this. If you get to level 10 with your legacy gems, that's enough to basically go infinite if you buy one of them for free. But you'd still be using legacy gems, right? The other thing, just because I'm into pricing right now, and everybody's had because this leaked, because Rally here, a little bit of this leaked at least, because Rally here posted a blog.
Teased, you mean?
Teased, whatever.
Teased, yeah.
Unintentional tease, I think is the best way to say it. So you see that this is showing that it costs 450 diamonds and 450 legacy gems. If you didn't have legacy gems, it would be 900 diamonds for this. And this is the way almost every purchase in Smite 2 will work and will look for you. If you have legacy gems, it will be half price. Half of the price will be legacy gems. Half of the price will be diamonds.
Super nice.
There are also going to be certain skins that we are porting from Smite 1. I think it's only going to be one in this closed alpha patch because we decided to give the other one away free as a Twitch drop, spoilers.
Oh, hell yeah.
But that you will be able to spend 100% legacy gems on. So you're going to be able to get stuff just with your legacy gems. Don't worry about it. We're going to keep dropping more and more skins that are kind of ported Smite 1 classic skins that you can get for legacy gems. So you need both 450 diamonds and 450 legacy gems, or 900 diamonds. Now, the question in everybody's mind, because you're used to Smite 1 currency pricing, well, how much is a diamond? So the currency in Smite 2 diamonds works a little bit differently than Smite 1 because Smite 1 had some issues. The currency value scales really hard in Smite 1, harder than any other game, where it's a dumb idea to not buy the $100 pack. And no offense to people who have not bought who've bought cheaper packs. I've bought cheaper packs myself before I started working here. But the exchange rate is just so much better if you buy the $100 pack that it feels bad when you're like, oh, I'll just drop $8 or whatever and get 400 gems. So we wanted to flatten out the currency curve across from $5 to the $100 pack. So it's less of a bad idea to buy a smaller pack. And by doing that, we also just kind of had to jumble the numbers around a little bit. So the two price points that I've memorized in my head, which I will share with you today. So for $10, you will get 1,300 diamonds. For $100, you will get 16,000 diamonds. So the very rough way of thinking about it,
basically a times
$100
two.
was 8,000 gems. It's 16,000 diamonds. So it's kind of twice as much, but it's a bigger difference for smaller prices because $8 was 400 gems, and it's and $10 is 1,300 diamonds. So the prices should be much more accessible without needing to spend a lot of your money to get to. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you buy any Founders Pack, your legacy gems are doubled. So we aren't trying to devalue your currency by changing the prices like this. You're getting as close to one-to-one value as we can do, and we're also giving you all
genuinely
of your free gems
very
that you got
good
for daily login bonuses.
It's very good.
And those are also
these
doubled if you
Ascension
buy
passes
Incon
are
so
without
that
a
was
doubt
currency talk that I
the
really wanted
best
to get into, but
cosmetic to price
the first thing
ratio in the
everybody's brain
history
goes
of
to is
Smite.
what's this going to cost me?
Over
right?
the last
And I think
11
that
years,
this is,
there's never
we're
been a
trying
better
to be
cosmetic to
as
price ratio
fair
ever.
and as cost effective as we can be on this kind of stuff. And I think being able to go infinite,
Cheaper than a lot of other competitors.
still cheaper than a lot of things, and I think very competitively like the fact that you can go infinite on these with just legacy gems is pretty good. So back to the actual content.
It's not just better than most games on the market. It's
tangent that I was
so much better. So much.
What else do you get when you buy in? If you buy an Ascension Pass,
and
you get
the stuff that you get is so cool.
You get. Can you go back to the full screen on the production? Can you go back to full screen on the? Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you get the shadow skin, which is pretty sweet. I think kind of inspired by the shadow skins that we used to do for clans in Smite 1. You get a epic tracker.
A tracker.
So these are really cool, and you get a master emote. So I'll talk about the master emote first, actually, because so now.
Good tracker.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about the tracker. Fine. So
you can talk about whichever one you want, Alex. I'm sorry. I don't like this tracker too much to not show it.
As you do things
really
in
cool
Smite
stuff.
2, we are going to track them, and you can show them on your loading card to everybody. So, as an example, you're spoiling. You can say, okay, I'm showing how many times
There's a lot of
got an enemy
customization
to
now.
max stacks of Storm's Edge
Cool
ever in
freaking
playing the game,
stuff.
and how many God kills I have gotten on Susanoo. So people can see your progress and your stats. And these will start tracking before you unlock the tracker. So it's not like you got to rush to get the tracker unlocked. You're not going to lose these things. And each god has two really kind of like custom things related to their play style. So like Ares, I know, has like a triple chains one, and a god stunned with no escape, with your ultimate. And Susanoo has stacks on stacks, which is gods that you get to max stacks of his passive, and distance dash, which is distance that you have traveled to. So how many miles have you gone in your life while you've been playing Susanoo using your jet stream and using your storm kata, I think is the name of that ability. And each god has different ones. They're really kind of interesting, and you can show off your own stats, which we think is really kind of cool. And then you also get this master emote. So the master emote, just kind of like VXG or one of those other inputs that you can do, you put in a VGS input, and you will be able to show everybody in your match, look at me, I'm mastery level 10 with 30 diamonds. Or 30 stars, sorry. So you can flex on people in game and show off your mastery level in game once you have an Ascension Pass.
Yep. That's right. So when you buy Ascension, you'll immediately get these 3 rewards, and it'll unlock all these possible future rewards. Or if you've already gotten to max level, you'll get them all immediately. You will also get this little number.
You get a worshiper boost.
Yes, you will also get a 25% worshiper boost
for this god.
For this god forever. Yes. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't so much that it made like the grind feel meaningless, but just a little bit extra boost we thought felt nice.
There's no boosters in Smite 2 at this point. There's no team boosters. There's no account boosters. So like this is the way to effectively get those.
Yeah, and we also thought that it
sounds like you're buying this from Medusa and only Medusa. Yeah, but you got to wait until you see some of these skins, though.
It's a little bit easier to get through the track and get the things on the track.
And some of the other things that you get.
When you buy in.
When you buy in. Okay, so level 1, you get the clap.
Let's do like all the free rewards.
Okay. So level 1, you get the clap. Level 10 diamonds. Level
you can finally get the clap, everybody. I know for some of you that was never going to happen.
You get a god assist tracker, and this is every god gets a god assist tracker here, and 20 diamonds. Level 5, you get the Onyx skin free and 30 diamonds. And remember, we've made it a lot easier to get from 0 to 5.
The legendary skins in Smite are now called Onyx skins, and you get them for free.
3 in Smite 1?
That's on the free. That's on the free pass.
Calling that mastered just kind of
that's
felt
on the
weird,
free pass.
like showing off a skin because you got a god to level 1. It's
so
like,
you actually get one for free,
man. Like So what made it a little steeper, a little harder? Like this is where you can actually start showing off that you've actually got some mastery on the god. This felt a lot more fair. We tuned it a little bit to just ease the curve here, but yeah. Now you'll have to get to level 5 before you can actually start swagging on this god.
Yep, and then at rank 7, you'll get your wave and 40 diamonds. At rank 9, you will get the god kills tracker and 50 diamonds. And at rank 10, you will get your god mastery badge and 75 diamonds.
And these rewards these free rewards are very, the system here is pretty much the same for all the gods, right? So you're going to get the same. emotes at the same level and the same gems for all of the gods. They're not radically different. The cosmetics are tuned to better fit the character, but there's no like giant mix-up in these. So at any if you are wanting to go grind Anubis really hard when you get into Smite 2, it's going to be a very
Diamonds are the
same
new
types of
premium
rewards,
currency.
the same levels.
The
It's
gems
same
are the
gem
legacy
kickbacks,
currency.
the same levels. This, if you see someone sporting this badge, it means they got to level 10 on any god, because every god's going to have one of these at level 10. It's very system driven in that way.
And trackers are tied to the god, so you can't show like your Susanoo god kills while you're playing as Anubis, but you can show like your badges and some of these other things that we'll show you on other gods, so people can see, oh, this guy has Susanoo at rank 10, but he's playing Loki right now.
So then in the paid rewards, you get
another
all
tracker.
these things as soon as you buy immediately. Then at level 2, you get
Level 2, you get a objectives destroyed tracker. At level
Stacks on stacks.
4, you get one of the more custom trackers that's different for each god. At level 5, you will get the
New skin
Opal
type.
skin.
Opal skin.
Which this skin, I think, looks the most different from god to god. And on some gods, it looks really awesome. On other gods, I still think it looks awesome, but it looks very different, right?
it's a little darker and like sleeker on this one. It's more purple and pink and sparkly on some other characters.
Yeah, on some gods, you really can feel like the opal, like
The
opalescence to
last
it.
skin
And
is
on other
gonna
gods,
is
it's more
gonna
like just
you
kind of a
guys are
color
gonna be
scheme,
it's
but,
hilarious.
it's kind of a neat new
It's
theme we're
hilarious.
experimenting with.
When you see the
and
last
then
Every
the
skin
rank
has been
10
tested
skin,
to
you're gonna
hide
know when
these
somebody's
crazy
rank 10
effects
in
and make
Smite
sure the beads
instantly
material
when you
shows up
see
right
them.
away.
Yeah,
Instantly.
And then, you also, sorry, keep going. Nelson.
We're really excited about these.
Yeah, so these are awesome. So global emotes are just like way cooler than they were on Smite 1.
Yep.
And we have this, gotta go fast.
Naruto
Susanoo
run.
here, yeah, little Naruto.
Chat says weeb run.
You get a custom emote.
And each god has
For the God
their
Mastery.
own custom kind of global emote here that you can unlock, and then those can be used.
And
across
hers
any
is
god once they are
excellent.
unlocked.
We really leaned into the memes for these.
And you can see
Yeah.
your own
We won't
global
show them all
emotes
today,
now.
but
Almost
Yep.
too hard sometimes, but
Yes.
that's the right way to do
Yep.
it, I think.
And then at level 8, you will get a title related to that god. Most of these are related to the god's actual title.
Sometimes shortened a little bit for character length, but
Yes. And then at
guys
mastery
re- you
level
guys ready for
10,
this?
you will get the
Holy.
radiant skin along
Holy.
with card effects, which are really cool. So it's kind of like a loading
yeah.
frame.
And a big
but
batch of diamonds.
It's this, yeah, and 225 diamonds. So this really neat, it's not like, it's kind of like a loading frame, but it's not. It's all driven through FX, and they just look so smooth and so slick. Like the Ares one in particular, with like there's like chains that are weaving through it. Like they're very cool. So hopefully people are, really like these and are excited about the opportunity to really kind of customize a loadout for your favorite god and show off, with your own personal style.
And then
Yeah, I
they barely
a
talked
little
about
bit
it, but you
earlier,
also
but
get a
just to
custom
reiterate,
border.
Each of your loadouts are
the end.
unique per god. So I can set up whatever combination of badges, trackers, title, frame I want for Susanoo, and it'll save. But then when I switch gods, so production, if you want to hide my cam just real quick while I switch gods to avoid any spoilers.
no spoilers. And while he's doing that, I'll mention
There's some pretty
toggle
major
back in.
spoilers if he's not careful.
there is also a badge here. See, this is the Ares.
Look at that, dude. Look at that freaking border.
geez, it
We've
looks
got
so
a
good.
couple things we're still working through some
Look at
bugs. So, like
that.
I do have a second tracker here equipped, but it's like hiding
For
sometimes.
rank
it's not
10
supposed to,
Ares
but no,
border
when I
right there.
play
So when you get rank 10 Ares on the
so
premium
the card
track,
art behind
you
will
get
always
that.
update to the skin you're playing and the god load, and it'll match the loadout. So you set your loadout for each god, then you play any god. It'll pick that god's loadout and then update the card art to that skin.
That's
and
so cool.
Yeah, as we already mentioned, like these will be updated to the new illustrated card art, not the renders eventually as well. Like this is all going to use the same art there. It's just we don't have that art yet.
Yep. And one other thing I will mention is that there is, we mentioned this when we announced Divine Legacy, but there is a badge that you will be able to equip that shows off your Smite 1 mastery level on that god. I don't think it's working in PTS today.
Don't think so. I had it on one god, but I have a 1-star, 2-star Ares on Smite.
Yeah, it just looks exactly like the Smite 1 mastery area with, the Roman numeral and the stars. So we wanted to let you kind of pay homage to the time and, effort that you put into Smite 1 and your accomplishments there, and be able to flex a little bit. So
Yeah, this is where a lot of your Divine Mastery stuff is going to be. Like you'll be able to see if
Crazy,
you were a Smite
man.
1 beta tester.
This
we have
update's
those
so good, I
avatars,
didn't even
the,
think it was possible.
Smite
It's so
1
cool, man.
Worlds,
It's so
Twitch
cool.
drop. the various tier 5s if you collected them, and ranked skins if you collected them, the various Smite season ranked achievements, playing enough matches from those to get them. Here's the tier 5 ones. So you can really, even though you're in Smite 2, you can still show off a lot of this unique things. And these will not be attainable any other way than owning these assets in Smite 1.
Yep. So through the Divine Legacy, if you look at that screen in Smite 1, it explains how you get all this stuff and what your progress is. So definitely it's cool and we're checking out.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Like outside of like, we're going to show you, obviously you'll be able to see whoever's in the flash tests and stuff. We'll probably start posting these emotes because the memes are really
like
good.
the spicy.
Start taking a look at some of these other skins, and I think they look really cool. But yeah, that is the system.
Yeah, I will say one just kind of last thing, because we were talking about Divine Legacy. There's the skins that are in Divine Legacy as well, that are kind of cross-gen, or not even cross-gen, but you just get in Smite 2 for completing Divine Legacy stuff.
So good, man. The Ascension system
we're rolling those
is
out
so
kind
cool.
of as quickly as we can while staying focused
cool.
on making a great game. So you should get those relatively quickly for most gods after they are released, but probably not in the same update that a god releases. So just to set expectations, because I don't want people to be like, I unlocked this thing. It's like, you're going to get it. We're going to do it. We're working on them all.
Ascension's
But
so hot right now.
sometimes it's better for us to ship those a little bit after the god releases to make sure that everything's fine with the god. We don't have to go back and redo stuff on the skin when we get that in.
Yeah, there's a lot more to show off in this update. Like the front end UI has had a complete visual overhaul. We're going to talk about ranked systems. We're going to talk about new conquest objectives. We're going to talk about new gods. We got a lot. We're going to maybe talk about some more forward-facing plans.
Okay, so they're not going to talk about that stuff until the
we can go over any specific item changes or balance changes, but those are the big things that we wanted to get to today that the community asked for. I just want to just for like closure, I just want to go over the high level list again. For anyone who came late, I had chat was spamming me during the loadout view of card art change. It's like, yo, you must have been late, because yes, we already talked about that.
Yeah, we are going back to illustrated card arts, but we're updating them all to be even
but
cooler.
These look so awesome, by the way, and you can display them on the loading frame, and when you load into the match, you can mix and match them.
I did, in fact, and now you have to wait 2 more weeks. You
each
sure
of them
do,
are themed around a god, really specifically. So I was supposed to demo some of these, but yeah, they're really cool. All right, so the things we talked about today were illustrated card art returns, environmental overhaul for style and fantasy, performance updates, item store changes including starter items returned, consumables returned, active item 3 slotting, starter upgrades, 20 plus of the most popular Smite 1 items, roughly 2 to 3 per roll returning, adding 2 more new relics, simplified component building, and simplified component building actually required us to like pretty much rebalance the entire item store. So you probably won't get like change list patch notes for plus or minus strength or whatever, because everything had to be rebalanced. HUD, clarity, and aesthetics, along with the new ability screen, or K screen as PC players are used to calling it, simplified damage typing for gods, single damage type output, as well as gods being specified into 100% strength, 100% int, or hybrid scaling types. Big polish passes on all of the previous alpha gods, which we exampled through Susanoo, but many other gods are doing similar changes. And we also are doing the visual effects for clarity pass and impact, the audio clarity and revert for Smite 1 iconic sounds, and game design updates regarding minion knockback AI and grouping to match Smite 1, and ascension passes. So
It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And
that's not everything.
Looking at chat,
that's just everything
it seems
today.
Like people are generally excited about stuff, which is great to see. I will say,
wait,
I see a
and
couple
there's
people asking
much
about
more.
favor. Since I talked about other currency, I guess I should talk about favor a little bit too.
Yeah, why not?
So we are not going to have a free grind currency, favor equivalent at the beginning of Smite 2.
I told them to
Right now,
mention
we're focused on. We're making, the core game, we're making it great. And, there's not a lot to actually spend that currency on if you were to grind it out.
Many ways to earn free diamonds, though.
There are many ways to earn
those
free
will have
diamonds.
value forever.
Yes, and you will be getting there's an early version of daily login rewards that will be in Closed Alpha 1 that will give free diamonds. There's going to be other ways to get free diamonds.
Mastering any god will
will give you free diamonds. So there will be ways to get diamonds, but we don't have this like kind of favor equivalent currency yet. We're expecting that something like that will be added when we get closer to free to play, because we kind of have this bigger plan for our system that we aren't really ready to talk about yet that is tied in with that. So hopefully that will be exciting when we get there, but for now it's not there. The question that's going through most people's minds then is, well, if I get in with a free
He can
code,
delay
then how
his
do I
voice
unlock
so well.
gods?
He can.
Oh, good point.
What we're going to be doing for the short term is all gods will be on free rotation so that you can play them, except for the gods in the most recent patch, which will be reserved for God Pack holders or Founders Edition owners.
Founders owners.
Yeah, so
Because you can't buy the god individually even at this point, right? It's Founders Pack or...
Yes, yeah, it's just
or free rotation.
Yes, so during this early alpha, we want people to have access to a lot of the gods so that we can see.
Have they said if
and
progress
not
and
be
God
kind of railroaded
Mastery,
through that
etc., will be
early
permanent?
rush.
As
Yeah,
soon
we
as
want
the servers
feedback.
go
So we thought
live,
it was
yes,
better.
that progress
Just-
is
it's,
permanent.
they're all unlocked for everybody except for the most recent gods.
I don't think that they've mentioned it
and if you,
specifically,
want to
but
play the most
it
recent
is,
gods, you can
yes.
either get one of the Founders Editions,
There's
which
no,
we
like,
still think are a pretty great
worship
value.
We will be doing
reset.
upgrading Founders Editions. Will that be ready for this update?
Yes, upgrading Founders Editions will be available in Closed Alpha 1. There's
They didn't know if you were going to be able to ever do that.
that shows how to do that. So if you were excited by what you saw about the Ascension Passes, hopefully we think they're pretty cool, and you want to upgrade to get more of the Ascension Passes, there'll be a way to do that, to go from any level to any level, I believe. So
Yeah, the only progression that won't
So I
be
saw some people asking about profile.
permanent
I had to
is
switch
ranked,
clients because
but-
there was a bug. But if we want to
Obviously.
show on screen really quick,
yeah, go
Yes.
for it.
I think it'll be safe
Obviously.
to show. There is a simplified profile section here, and you can choose any badge to be your avatar. So we're not going to have two different cosmetics for something that's essentially the same thing. So
Which is kind
if
of a
you
spoiler.
have Archon Thanatos,
Kind of
from
a
Smite 1,
spoiler.
which is hard to get. You can set Archon Thanatos as your avatar, and it just looks sick. I mean, I'm a big Subic fan. Subic was my first played god in Smite 1.
Really?
First
I didn't
level.
know
Yep,
that.
first mastered. He was all of closed beta. I only played Subic pretty much, supported for my teammates. And yeah, so I've equipped him here. There's also some other things here. I'm not going to demo all this now because I don't want to accidentally click on something. I've already done plenty of accidental spoilers today, but
Yeah, and
that's okay.
This is
plenty of accidentals.
The earliest version of this.
earliest version of
Really
the screen.
early. We
I think
plan
that
to expand the profile a lot.
Yeah.
This is just the necessary pieces. So match history, checking up on your rank, confirming your daily login process, and there is a couple of cosmetics that are account level, not god level, that'll be handled here.
He'll change it to AMA when AMA comes out for sure.
Some,
I don't think there is an Amaterasu badge in Smite 2 yet.
no, yeah, you gotta work on that. One person just
sure.
asked, Smite 1 will stay up when Smite 2 releases, right? Yes, Smite 1 is not going anywhere. We know that Smite 2, hopefully you can see with this update, we've made a lot of improvements. We're listening to you guys. We're doing everything we can to make this game great, but we know that we still have a ways to go, right? And we think it's important that you guys have the option to keep playing Smite 1, to keep accessing all your stuff there, or if you're really into what we're doing with Smite 2 and you want to jump over, then cool, we're happy to have you. So Smite 1's not going anywhere. We are we're hoping that over time more and more people decide they want to move to Smite 2 because we're doing the right
Smite
things
1
and it's just a better game.
Smite 1 won't be going anywhere, but he
Smite
got
1's
decent.
going to be there,
Yeah, he
and
did.
especially if you're stuck on an older gen console and can't play Smite 2, we're happy to have you keep playing Smite 1 for as long as you're having fun.
Smite 1
and,
won't be going anywhere, but
slamming
the
keys
player
and bowing
base
down to gods.
will be
So-
going somewhere. So
All right, gentlemen. Well, that wraps it up.
hop
for us
onto
today.
the
Thanks
Smite
so much
2
for
hype
taking
if
out
you
the
know.
time. 24/7 Alpha, August 27th.
August 27th.
You wanna play
yeah,
against
big
players.
day for us, and it's a big day, but it's the next step.
Yes.
Right. Game's not done. Game's not shipped. It's still alpha.
Job's not finished.
Job's not finished. We're not like, okay, guys, we got it here. Just as we have been through these alpha weekends, we want your feedback. We want to understand what we need to work on for the next update, and we're just going to keep grinding, and we're going to make this game great. And we're really excited about it. I'm stoked with how far the game's come since. If you look back at the footage from the first alpha weekend to now, I think that everybody can see we've come a long way. There's things that we wish we could have gotten done sooner. There's things that we wish everybody wants more gods, everybody wants more items, everybody wants more and more and more, right? And we're going to get there. We're going to keep grinding it out, and hopefully, everybody just enjoys what we can present now, and sees the future and is along for the ride. So,
Absolutely. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for the full update show for Closed Alpha 1, where we'll have more details on god balance, item balance, game mode balance. We'll have the full reveal of Mordred there. We'll have written patch notes on the website. We're going to be talking about ranked on that show. There's just so much coming in this update.
Dude, I was looking at Mordred's ability descriptions today, and I was like, how am I going to get these to fit on that screen? He does so much stuff. Like, he's interesting character.
Yeah, interesting. For
Yes.
sure. If you haven't read the Closer Look blog,
He does have to keep up with Arthur, yes.
yeah, if you haven't read the Closer Look blog on Mordred, head over to smite2.com and check out the news page there.
Mordred will be in
before full reveal.
the next
We're going to
note.
be starting flash tests, like AJ said earlier.
This is
in a
basically
little bit.
half.
So if you're interested in
The
participating,
other half
in
is
those,
like
head
in
to
2
our official
weeks.
Discord. But outside of that, thanks so much for tuning in with us and joining us. We'll see you on the next time.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you on the next time.
Made in Georgia.
Made in Georgia. Just to clarify with everybody, all of that stuff is happening. All of that stuff, which to me, all of it is positive or lateral movements. There's no direct negatives within that. And then on top of that, in a couple more weeks, we're going to have the actual patch notes where they're going to talk about gameplay changes, balancing, the new god, a new ported over god, ranked. They're gonna like. There's so much more. There's so much more on top of all the stuff that you just saw. So that was like kind of the baseline stuff, you know. But there's so much more being added on top of all that. So pretty dang exciting, man. Pretty dang exciting.